Welcome to the Agile Software Engineering Deep Dive. My name is Alessandro Guida, and in this episode, I want to explore something we rarely question until it starts irritating us daily. What happened to quality? More specifically, what happened to reliability, usability, and the simple discipline of using our own products before releasing them? You press enter. You meant to create a new line. Instead, something else and irreversible starts happening. Good usability is minimizing the friction between what the user wants to do and this actually happening. In the race to release faster, add AI features, and stay ahead of competitors, are we quietly negotiating away the fundamentals? Years ago, we had a concept called dogfooding. Use your own software. Seriously, daily, honestly. Because if you wouldn't depend on it, why should your customers? In this episode, I reflect on usability mistakes that are not really small, on reliability as a professional obligation, and on what happens when software moves beyond screens and into cars, appliances, and physical systems. This is not a technical deep dive. It's a cultural one. Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's just jump right in and unpack this. I want you to picture a scenario for a second. It's 11 p.m.
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
You probably do. You're tired.
Right.
You've had a ridiculously long day. You walk into your bedroom and all you want to do is turn off your smart lights and just go to sleep.
Right. Just a simple action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But instead of just flicking a switch, you have to open an app. And of course, the app decides right at that exact moment that it needs to update.
Or it's randomly logged you out.
Yes. Or you're logged out.
Mm-hmm.
So there you are, just standing in the dark, staring at this little loading spinner and wondering when exactly turning off a light became a major IT project.
It's honestly a universal experience at this point. It feels like we aren't even using technology anymore. We're just fighting it.
We really are wrestling with it just to do the bare minimum.
Exactly.
And honestly, I've been asking myself lately if I'm just getting old and cranky. Like, is this just some sort of back in my day syndrome? Or has software quality actually taken a massive nosedive?
It's a fair question.
Right. Well, today we are going to answer that question definitively. We have a really fantastic source for today's deep dive. It's issue number 21 of the Agile Software Engineering newsletter.
And the title is perfect.
It really is. It's titled, What Happened to Quality, Usability, and Dogfooding?
And let me tell you, the author absolutely does not pull any punches here.
No, they do not.
It is a pretty scathing, but honestly incredibly insightful look at this massive tension we're seeing right now.
The tension between the pressure to just release fast work.
Especially with this whole current AI craze.
Exactly. That pressure versus the fundamental need for things to just work.
Right.
So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out if software quality has, as the source puts it, quietly left the building. We're going to talk about this lost discipline called dogfooding.
Which is, thankfully, way less gross than it sounds.
Much less gross, I promise. We're also going to revisit a very famous memo from Bill Gates that basically flipped the entire industry on its head 20 years ago.
That is a fascinating piece of history.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we'll explain why a simple, cheap plastic light switch might actually be the absolute pinnacle of human design.
Plus, we really need to have a serious conversation about why your car suddenly needing a software update might actually be a huge red flag and not some cool futuristic feature.
Yeah, that part gave me chills, honestly. But let's start with the big picture here.
Hey.
The author sets the stage by saying that under all this pressure to jump on the AI bandwagon and embrace the whole move fast and break things ethos.
Quality isn't just suffering a little bit.
Right. It's taking an unannounced vacation.
And what's really fascinating here is the clear distinction the source makes, because we aren't just talking about minor bugs here.
Right, like a pixel being out of place.
Exactly. Look, in engineering, you always have trade-offs. You might sacrifice a little bit of speed for stability or maybe hold back some polish for a quicker release.
That's just normal development.
It is. But the source argues that what we are seeing right now is totally different. It's not a trade-off anymore. It is negligence.
Negligence. That is a really strong word to use.
It's heavy, but look at the evidence they present. The argument is that we are seeing defects that make software fundamentally unusable, not just imperfect, but completely broken.
Like I literally cannot log into the banking app I use to pay my mortgage.
Exactly. These are totally avoidable errors.
It really feels like the whole definition of MVP, minimum viable product, has completely shifted.
Oh, absolutely.
It used to mean the smallest, simplest thing that actually solves the user's problem. Now it just feels like it means the absolute worst thing we can get away with selling before we have to patch it later.
Precisely. And the core argument here is that this completely erodes trust.
Oh, so?
Well, when a company prioritizes being a first to market with some half-baked AI feature over the basic day-to-day reliability of their product, they are basically telling the customer that their time simply does not matter.
Wow. Yeah, that stings.
The author writes that reliability and usability just seem to have been totally left behind in this frantic frenzy to just ship code.
It really does feel like we're all just unpaid beta testers these days.
Unpaid and unappreciated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the source actually brings up a solution to this, or rather a forgotten practice that used to prevent this exact scenario.
Dogfooding.
Yes, dog feeding. Which again, I love the term, even if it sounds a little unappetizing.
It's a total classic in the tech industry. The source specifically reflects on their own time at Microsoft to explain how it works. Dogfooding comes from the old phrase, eating your own dog food.
Meaning using your own product.
Right.
But wait a second, don't all companies do that? I mean, surely if you build an app, you at least check if it opens right. If I bake a cake, I'm obviously going to taste the batter.
You would definitely think so. But there is a massive nuance here that the author points out.
Okay.
The source emphasizes that real dogfooding isn't just about running a quick demo. It's not clicking through some polished slide deck or following a tightly controlled script where you already know everything works perfectly.
So what is it then?
It means the engineering team has to use the software internally extensively, and as if they were real everyday users long before it ever gets to the public.
So you're basically forcing the engineers to actually live with the exact thing they just built.
Precisely. And the absolute key word the author uses here is humility.
Humility. I like that.
Because when you actually dog food your own product, you have to experience all your own awkward workflows. You hit the hidden crashes.
You realize your brilliant ideas maybe weren't so brilliant.
Exactly. You realize that the clever assumption you made while coding in a vacuum does not survive actual contact with reality.
Contact with reality. That is so true. It's so easy to think a feature is amazing when you designed it in a quiet room on a giant monitor. But when you have to use it on your phone while carrying groceries to actually get a task done,
suddenly that clever 3-click process feels incredibly annoying.
infuriating even.
And that annoyance is the entire point. If the engineer gets annoyed using it, they will fix it because they don't want to deal with it again tomorrow.
Right, because they're the user now.
Exactly. If they don't use it, the customer is the one who gets annoyed, and the customer just leaves. The source points out that almost every single time they did this at Microsoft, they found major issues that had easily slipped through the formal testing plans.
So it basically closes the empathy gap.
That's exactly it. It forces you to actually feel the pain you're about to inflict on your users. And if it hurts you, you're going to fix it.
Well, speaking of Microsoft, this actually leads us directly into a really fascinating piece of history the source brings up. The famous trustworthy computing memo.
Oh, yes.
I hadn't thought about this memo in years, but it was huge.
It was a truly pivotal moment in tech history. January 15th, 2002, Bill Gates sends this massive memo to the entire company.
And you really have to remember the context of that time. Microsoft was an absolute juggernaut, but their software was rapidly getting a terrible reputation for being buggy and super insecure.
The whole blue screen of death era.
I remember it so well. You'd move your mouse the wrong way and the entire computer would just instantly die.
Right. So Gates issues this company-wide mandate. He explicitly instructs all his employees to prioritize security, privacy, and reliability completely above adding any new features.
Above new features.
Yeah.
That seems almost unthinkable in today's tech landscape. Everything today is all about what's new, what's shiny look at this new AI button we just added.
It was a massive cultural shift for them. The stated goal was to make software as dependable as basic utility services.
Like electricity or water.
Exactly. When you turn on a tap at home, you don't worry that the city's plumbing infrastructure is going to crash.
You don't sit there buffering your water.
Exactly. It just flows. That was the new bar Gates was setting.
The source mentions that reliability was explicitly a core part of that vision. It wasn't just about stopping hackers. It was about building software that doesn't just randomly collapse into a 404 page for no reason.
And the really compelling part is that the source argues this shift actually worked. For a very long time, software releases across the industry became much more disciplined.
Features were introduced at a slower pace, so reliability could actually catch up.
Right. But the deep concern the author has now is that we are rapidly slipping back.
We've completely forgotten that lesson.
We have. We've slipped right back into that pre-2002 mindset of features first and stability maybe second if we have time.
And it's not even just about the code not crashing anymore. It's about basic usability. The source makes a really strong statement here that I want to highlight. They say if software works, but customers cannot understand how to use it, strictly speaking, it does not work.
This is exactly where we get into the whole design philosophy aspect of the article. The author heavily recommends a book called The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman.
Oh, that is an absolute classic.
It really is, and the core argument there is that good design isn't about decoration. It's not about making things look pretty on a screen.
It's about clarity.
Yes.
And this is where the light switch theory comes in, which I absolutely loved. Such a simple analogy, but it is so damning for modern tech.
It's perfect, isn't it? Just think about a standard plastic light switch on your wall. You push it up, and there is light. You push it down, and it is dark.
There is no onboarding webinar to use a light switch.
Exactly. There is no helpful tip of the day pop-up blocking the switch.
You don't have to read a manual.
You just use it.
Can you imagine if a physical light switch works the way some of these modern apps do? You flip the switch, and a robotic voice says, "Please create an account and verify your email to activate the ceiling fan."
Or downloading critical firmware update for the hallway light, 12% complete. Please do not leave the hallway.
Exactly. It would be maddening. The main takeaway from the source here is that if a customer doesn't immediately intuit how to use the software, if it requires a bunch of explanation, then strictly speaking, that software is broken.
Because usability is not cosmetic. It literally determines if the product has any actual value to the human being trying to use it.
It's totally binary. It either works or it doesn't.
Right. But nowadays, we treat usability like it's just the icing on the cake. We hire a UI designer right at the end to make the buttons look nice. But if the underlying workflow is fundamentally confusing, no amount of pretty gradients or drop shadows will save it.
The source actually gives some really concrete, real-world examples of where this exact thing is failing today. And one of them is honestly kind of scary.
You're talking about the Danish national authentication app MitID.
Yes. This is the serious example they give. So in Denmark, this one specific app is used for basically everything, right? Taxes, banking, checking your private health records.
It is literal critical infrastructure for the country.
And yet the author points out that the integration is incredibly fragile.
Right. The source mentions having to literally power cycle their phone, completely turn it off and restart it just to get the basic authentication flow to actually work.
That is just wild to me. Imagine having to fully reboot your phone every time you just want to log into your checking account.
The author describes it as friction injected into essential daily life. And that really highlights the difference between a mobile game crashing and this kind of failure.
Yeah.
When software becomes actual public infrastructure, reliability is no longer a luxury. It is an absolute necessity.
If you get locked out of Candy Crush, you're annoyed for 5 minutes. If you get locked out of your national ID app, you are quite literally locked out of modern society.
It really casts that whole move fast and break things motto in a much darker light. You really shouldn't be breaking things when those things are people's access to their own healthcare.
No, you definitely should not. But then on the flip side, there's the other example the author gives. This one made me laugh out loud, even though it drives me completely crazy too.
Oh, the ChatGPT interface?
Yes. The source goes right after conversational AI interfaces, and specifically the enter key.
This is such a classic usability inversion. I do this constantly.
Let's break it down because it's so relatable. Think about typing on a keyboard. What is the single action you do most frequently in any document or any email ever?
Hitting enter to start a new line or a new paragraph. It is pure muscle memory. I've been doing it that way for 30 years.
Correct. And what is the action you do only once per message, and which is potentially really dangerous because you can't ever take it back?
Sending the actual message, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Exactly. So in a perfectly logical world, the easiest key, press just hitting enter, would do the frequent safe action, which is making a new line. And the modifier key, like holding Shift plus Enter, would do the dangerous one-time action of sending.
But ChatGPT and a lot of these AIs do the absolute exact opposite.
Yes, they do.
Pressing Enter submits the prompt immediately. If you want a simple new line, you have to hold Shift. The source compares this to being lightly electrocuted every single time you try to turn on a lamp.
That's such a vivid and accurate image. You're just happily typing away, you hit Enter purely out of habit to organize your thoughts, and boom, it's gone.
A completely half-finished thought just fired off to the AI.
And you can't even stop it usually.
No, you get this long, half-baked answer. It wastes server energy. It totally clutters up your chat history. It is technically functional. Sure, it does send the message, but it is entirely hostile to the user.
Because it completely ignores how humans actually type.
Exactly.
The source even mentions that users have actually developed this ridiculous hack to get around this.
Oh, the prompt hacking.
Yeah, they literally have to tell the AI at the very start of the session, do not process anything I say until I explicitly type the words now go.
Which is just absurd. It's users actively fighting against the software just to make it work for their basic needs.
It's like treating the AI like a hyperactive toddler that just keeps interrupting you. Oh, wait, I haven't finished the question yet. Stop talking.
And the real irony of the source notes is that the AI will sometimes actually forget that instruction halfway through, which makes it feel impressively but also frustratingly human.
It really does highlight this massive gap between smart technology and actually usable technology. Like,
Yeah.
Sure, it can write a sonnet in 10 seconds, but it can't just let me hit the Enter key without firing off a message prematurely.
Exactly.
But this actually points to a much bigger issue this source brings up regarding how developers operate today. There used to be this really common slogan in the industry, write once, run everywhere.
Right, which originally referred to writing code that could easily run on completely different operating systems.
But in the modern age of iOS versus Android, the source argues this has basically just become a shortcut to mediocrity.
How so? Well, because developers often just check if the app works on their own personal phone and call it a day. And let's be totally honest here, most developers are sitting in a very nice, quiet office with the absolute latest high-end iPhone and a blazing fast gigabit fiber connection.
Right. They aren't exactly testing it on a 5-year-old budget Android phone with a cracked screen while riding a subway on a spotty 3G network.
Exactly. They falsely assume their perfect environment is the user's everyday environment. The source specifically calls this out as negligence.
There's that word again.
They correct that old slogan to write once and test everywhere.
Ah, so you can't just look at your own perfect screen, give a thumbs up, and ship it.
No, it is pure negligence to ignore the vast majority of the actual market. If you aren't testing on the specific devices your actual users have, you just aren't finishing the job. You are building software for yourself, not for your customer.
And this directly connects to something even more alarming that we touched on earlier. Software isn't just staying neatly contained on our phones and laptops anymore.
No, it is actively leaking out into the physical world.
This is where the stakes just absolutely skyrocket.
Yeah.
The source talks about software now governing our physical appliances, home electronics, and specifically our vehicles.
I feel this one personally. My current car has a giant touchscreen for absolutely everything. Even adjusting the air vents is buried behind a digital menu.
And the source critiques that exact trend incredibly heavily. This massive feature overload has turned basic physical tasks, like just turning down the AC temperature, into these complex, dangerous software workflows.
That is bad enough on its own, but what's even worse is the whole concept of over-the-air updates for cars.
See, I always actually thought that was kind of cool. Like, I wake up and my car gets a new feature while it sleeps.
In theory, it sounds amazing, yes, but you have to look at the massive, perverse incentive it creates for the car manufacturer.
Right.
If they know for a fact they can just push a software patch next Tuesday, they are so much more likely to sell you a physical product today that has known defects.
Because they can just fix it later. It encourages that ship, now fix later mentality, but for a 2-ton machine.
Exactly. It completely normalizes selling broken physical products. But when software is actively running a vehicle going down the highway, reliability isn't about convenience anymore. It is quite literally a matter of life and death safety.
That is such a chilling thought. I mean, you can easily just reboot a frozen phone. You really, really do not want to have to reboot your car while doing 70 on the interstate.
No, you certainly do not. And the terrifying thing is we are actually seeing this happen now. Center console screens just going completely black while driving, emergency braking systems glitching out over a shadow.
It's terrifying.
The source strongly argues that by treating cars like they are just big smartphones, we are importing all of the inherent instability of the software world right into heavy machinery.
And it perfectly reinforces why this lost art of quality matters so much more now than ever before.
Exactly. And this really brings us to the core philosophy the source is advocating for at the end of the piece. It is really a call to arms for engineers everywhere.
They call it the engineer's obligation, right?
Yes, professional pride. The source lists 4 non-negotiable pillars of quality that every engineer should uphold: security, reliability, usability, and performance.
Notice none of those are AI integrations. And these aren't just nice to haves either.
No, they are the absolute foundation of any product. The author argues that engineers have to start resisting the intense marketing pressure. They have to resist the urge to just constantly chase whatever the next shiny trend is.
Because quality doesn't mean perfect, right? Software is always going to have some bugs.
Of course. But quality means it is stable. It means it is understandable to the person using it. And most importantly, it means it is respectful of the user.
Respectful. I really, really like that word in the specific context. It is profoundly disrespectful to waste a user's valuable time with a frustrating crash loop just because you didn't want to spend the money to test it properly.
Precisely. And the closing argument the source makes is incredibly powerful. It reminds us all that trust, once it is lost, is far more expensive to rebuild than any new feature is to just postpone.
That is the whole takeaway right there.
Yeah.
Trust is more expensive to rebuild than any feature is to postpone.
It is a rock-solid business case for quality, not just a moral argument. Just think about all the apps you have personally deleted or the brands you have completely sworn off forever.
Oh, there are plenty.
And it is almost never because they didn't have the absolute latest AI feature. It's because they fundamentally failed you. They lost your private data, they crashed right when you needed them most, or they just made you feel stupid trying to use them.
And once that trust is gone, it is just gone. You don't ever go back.
Exactly. No amount of flashy marketing or sleek redesigns is going to bring you back from a critical failure of trust.
So wrapping this all up, we have covered a lot of ground today. The move fast and break things trap the lost discipline of dogfooding. Why a simple light switch is actually the absolute peak of design, and why your car definitely shouldn't act like your smartphone.
The whole summary really boils down to reviving those old unsexy habits. As the source says, you need to feed the dog. Actually use your own product.
And flip the switch. Make it actually usable.
Yes. And just don't ship it to the public until you've done both of those things.
It sounds so remarkably simple, yet it feels like an entirely revolutionary idea right now.
It really does. And I think for you, the listener, the biggest takeaway is to just start demanding better. Don't just settle for good enough or partially broken. And if you are out there actually building software, remember that this AI bandwagon will eventually move on, but a product that works reliably is completely timeless.
Here is the final thought I want to leave everyone with today, something to really mull over on your own. We are all so completely obsessed with AI right now and how incredibly smart our devices are getting. We want them to predict our needs, write our emails, drive our cars for us. But in a world where absolutely everything is desperately trying to be clever, are we forgetting that the most advanced, luxurious feature a product can actually have is simply working when you hit the button?
Reliability really is the new luxury.
I think you might be exactly right. Maybe we should all just go appreciate a simple light switch today. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Agile Engineering Deep Dive podcast. If you found this episode valuable, feel free to share it with someone who might benefit, a colleague, your team, or your network. You can access all episodes by subscribing to the podcast and find their written counterparts in the Agile Software Engineering newsletter on LinkedIn. And if you have thoughts, ideas, or stories from your own engineering journey, I'd love to hear from you. Your input helps shape what we explore next. Thanks again for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.